Hi, I'm Melanie, and I researched the question, what is the role of public broadcasting in the United States? President Lyndon Johnson signed the Public Broadcasting Act 50 years ago. Johnson proclaimed, it will be free, and it will be independent, and it will belong to all our people. The act founded the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a non-commercial educational broadcasting system. Quality educational TV and radio would reach a diverse and marginalized audience and be protected from the forces of commercialism and politics. It was a perfect representation of the idealism of that time. 40 years later, in a speech to Federal Communications Commission, Paula Kerger, PBS president and CEO, differentiated the public broadcasting system from the commercial TV, stating, PBS exists to serve the people, not to sell to the people. She illustrated her statement with the following points. PBS single-handedly invented educational children's television. PBS alone has preserved the arts on TV. PBS has pioneered genres and concepts that are now the basis for entire channels, such as science and nature programs, how-to and cooking shows, and even reality TV. PBS is strengthening their online presence and increasing their digital footprint with interactive programming, streaming, a YouTube channel, apps, and podcasts. Regarding PBS's news media, she states, for over 25 years, they have broadcast an hour-long nightly newscast providing in-depth news, not just sound bites. The American people consider PBS the most trusted and unbiased institution. She expressed concern about the consolidation of mainstream media and the steep decline of reporting and editing journalists. She thinks the decline in commercial journalism is a danger to American democracy. Although she doesn't think commercial journalism needs rescued, she thinks it needs reinvented. She reported that PBS, along with National Public Radio, were working to fill in the gaps and create journalism for the times in which we live. Stephen Ostertag performed a study to determine how people use the news. He writes that people have a psychological need to know what's going on around them and around the world in order to have confidence in their social reality. In interviews of self-selected subjects, he considers who consider themselves well informed on news and the news media, he found that all of them thought that network news was biased, full of fluff, and lacked in-depth news coverage. All the subjects considered PBS their news safety net. They watched network news and then supplemented it with PBS News and felt that the combination gave them an accurate picture of what's going on in their world. A study by Avery stated that although prior to the Public Broadcasting Act becoming law, a commission on educational TV recommended that it be governed by a nonpartisan board of directors and funded by a tax on television sets to insulate them from future political turmoil. Lawmakers at that time did not heed the advice. Instead of a nonpartisan board of directors, the act required a board consisting of presidential appointees. The act also did not authorize a tax or any method of federal funding that would protect it from future political pressure. McLaughlin and Gurevitz reported the following breakdown of PBS's funding. 15% comes from government. 3% of their funding comes from federal grants and contracts. 27% comes from its viewers, and a whopping 55% comes from corporate foundations, educational institutions, businesses, and individuals, wealthy individuals. Kerbel, Appy, and Ross. did a study comparing the nightly news reported by PBS with the nightly news reported by ABC. The result of the study showed that PBS's news appeared to be more in-depth due to the lack of commercial interruptions, with fewer of the sound bites offered by ABC. However, in reality, the content being reported was quite similar. They gave the following example to illustrate their conclusion. Bill Clinton went to Santa Barbara today and stressed his commitment to the environment in a meeting with supporters. Although the environment is mentioned, the viewer learns nothing about the substance of Clinton's policy position. Due to their funding structure, Ostertag agrees PBS ain't so different. It's under pressure to provide programming that attracts a financially stable audience, often defined as educated white people, because they provide 27% of their funding. PBS then markets their audience of financially stable, educated white people to solicit funding from corporate sponsors who pay for programming often contingent on their approval. PBS is also under pressure not to offend the legislature lest they cut funding allocations. The result of PBS's funding pressure is that the content of the news reported by PBS is similar in content to the commercial network news. Ostertag listed 5 studies that confirmed his findings. Although news consumers perceive that public broadcasting provides them with a news safety net, they are left consuming content that is subject to the same institutional burdens and corrupting forces that weigh on network news. Though with PBS, those pressures are less obvious. While PBS is packaged differently than network news in many ways, they're both produced by the same company in the same factory by the same managers. The role of public broadcasting? Fooling the American people. Due to its funding structure, Ostertag believes that it is effectively functioning as a steam vent by offering a perceived safety net for the public to turn to with their need to be informed and active in our democracy. That steam vent is protecting the dominant social, political, and economic institutions from potential concerns and possible structural and policy changes that might erupt should there be no perceived legitimate and trustworthy news alternative.